So what's your name and what's your first memory of the Leadmill?
I'm Philip Watson. I probably went to the Leadmill first time in about 1981 as a newcomer to Sheffield, and I can remember coming in through the turnstiles for the first time and it being a very dark place with four globes that sat up above the dance floor, and thinking, is this it? And then just within about half an hour falling in love with the place. Every opportunity I could, I went to the Leadmill. And then later I did some music journalism. I wrote for the New Musical Express, so the NME was sending me to the Leadmill, so I was getting paid to go to my favourite venue to go and watch some of my favourite bands. Well, I guess I got frustrated, a little bit bored with the bands that I was watching, and I always noted that people in bands seemed to have more girlfriends than I did, so it seemed like a good plan. I met a lady called Bronwyn Stone, who also worked at the Leadmill at some point, and got chatting to her in a pub one day, and she said that she'd had some drumming lessons, and I said, well, would you like to be in my band then? Which was an imaginary band at that point in time. And then about 2 weeks later we had our first rehearsal. That was Blammo. Actually, the Leadmill was probably one of our first handful of gigs. I think we played support to somebody at the Leadmill. Yeah, I think actually for a band from Sheffield to play at the Leadmill is kind of a, it's a kind of a big deal. Even if you're playing support and you're on at 8:30 to 7 people and a dog, it still feels pretty special. The time that stands out for me, it actually isn't a Blammo gig, it's a Speedy gig. So Blammo morphed into Speedy, and I think around about September '95. I think somewhere along that lines, we had a record of the week on Radio 1. We knew the single was doing quite well, and we were doing a tour, and the Leadmill was the last gig on our tour, and it felt like a real homecoming, and that we'd made it, and it was sold out, and it was a fantastic night. It was a fantastic night, and I'll never forget that. Boy Wonder was the single, which I think it was 47 or something like that, I can't remember now, in the chart. Not quite enough to get us, it wasn't a hit, as they say, but I think the follow-up single didn't get Radio 1 playlisted, and at the time, there was no download chart or anything like that. Actually, chart success was too weighted towards what Radio 1 put on their playlist. So if you're on the playlist, on the A list, you got played during the day, people bought your records. If you're on the B list, then you get on the nighttime shows. The next single got on the B list, the single after that got on the B list, and we were signed to Arista, and they were cutting their roster, and we got dropped along with Betty Boo. Which I thought, we were in quite good company there. So the album never came out. I mean, the thing was, we had a fan base, a fan club with about 6,000 people in it. I'm sure we could have got another record deal with a smaller indie label. It just got to the point where we kind of lost the heart for it, to be honest, because we'd been doing it for so long. We felt we'd progressed to that point, and there was always a kind of spoken and unspoken thing within the band about if we felt that we'd stop progressing, we'd stop, because there seemed to be kind of enough people hanging about in the pubs of Sheffield who could have been somebody, and I didn't want to be another one of those people. Something that came came out of the blue. So somebody got in touch with us and said, you know, we can't believe the album's never been released. Can we release it? We were taken aback. Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? Okay, you know, knock yourselves out. We got some permissions or not. I'm not sure. And then kind of by degrees, the record company then said, well, would you mind reforming? That was difficult. Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? You know, I can't remember if you're familiar with creme brulee. You know, we didn't want to be this kind of, you know, bunch of middle-aged people reforming and living past glories. But of course we did, because it appeals to your ego. So we agreed to it, and then of course, as soon as we'd agreed to doing a show in London, which emotionally felt okay to me, because that meant that none of my friends and family would necessarily be able to access it. Then it came to the question of, well, if you're doing one in London, you may as well do it in Sheffield. Think of all the people in Sheffield who'd like to see you. So by degrees we got coerced into it. I was possibly the most reluctant. It's a bit like, you know, kind of organising the wake at your own funeral. And you know, you turn up and you don't know who's going to be there, whether they're going to say nice things about you. And I've got to say, it was a really lovely experience. It was actually one of the best gigs we ever did at the Leadmill. Really good atmosphere, and then an amazing night. Yeah, it's fantastic. I've got the confession here as well, because when I was writing for the NME, I actually I wrote a review of a club night at the City Hall in the ballroom, which was really, I don't know if you've been, but it's, you know, it's very glamorous, and it was so refreshing to go somewhere that was clean, and you know, and the carpets weren't sticky and all of that, and you know, and I remember writing the review, and I said something to the effect of, the Leadmill must be shaking down to its piss-drenched carpets at the prospect of the City Hall ballroom doing indie dance nights. So yeah, sticky carpets.
That seems to be the consensus with most people.
Is it that or toilet?
I think it's our toilet.
Yeah.
Both colours is great.
Well, to me, when I moved to Sheffield, that was a period in my life where I kind of discovered who I was, you know, 18 to 21, that period. And the Leadmill was a place like nowhere else I'd ever been before. And it kind of felt like my spiritual home. And that's why I always gravitated towards it. That's why I worked there. That's why doing gigs there was great. That's why I was a promoter there. And for me, you know, I know times move on, but to me, the Leadmill will always represent music culture in Sheffield.